During the ongoing war in Ukraine, calling Vladimir Putin a criminal or a butcher or trashing Joe Biden as a weak president is of course not going to help end the conflict. In fact, it is likely to worsen it. What the world needs is a mutual table for peace talks, and this is exactly what India is offering. New Delhi was slammed for taking the diplomatic route. The United States even called India, quote-unquote, shaky for not picking a side in this war and for not being on the right side of history. But picking a side, remember, only aggravates a situation. In the past 1 month, India has come out as a soft power, a nation that has decided to not choose sides by abstaining to vote repeatedly at the United Nations. But what is interesting is that India has chosen the path of diplomacy. It is urging the world leaders to actually talk and to channelize their differences towards a practical solution that they can find. And therefore, there have been quite a few world leaders who are making a beeline for New Delhi. The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will be visiting India this week. The war in Ukraine is going to be the top of the agenda. Lavrov is expected to meet with his Indian counterpart S. Jaishankar, and India will try to play an active role in keeping Russia at the talking table. Now, ever since the war began, what is interesting is that New Delhi, that had developed very close ties with the Americans, has now chosen repeatedly not to vote at the United Nations on the draft proposal that the United States had been submitting against Russia. Instead, New Delhi has been batting for diplomacy. Over the course of the next 3 days, the British Foreign Secretary Elizabeth Truss will be landing in New Delhi. She is scheduled to meet with the Indian Foreign Minister. More details, of course, are expected of this visit. It is a no-brainer that the Russian invasion of Ukraine will, of course, dominate the talks. India can urge the United Kingdom and the NATO bloc to push harder towards a resolution. The 2nd of April is going to see a high-level meeting by the Nepalese Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deoba. He is set to hold a meeting with the Vice President Venkaiah Naidu and also meet with the Indian Prime Minister. And also the latest, the German Foreign and Security Policy Advisor to the Chancellor is in New Delhi, and this is, of course, what he's had to say.
I think, the situation in which India is, you live in a complicated neighborhood. You have challenges of constraints of your own. And one of the aims of my discussions here in Delhi today is to better understand how this geopolitical specificity of India plays into your analysis of what is going on in Ukraine.
Russia's strategic ally, China, has of course been quietly watching the developments in Ukraine as India-China relationship has turned bitter over the course of the last 2 years. Remember, what is interesting is that the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi was in New Delhi. While the standoff at the Himalayan border has been a priority, it is crucial for both India and China as to how the war in Ukraine unfolds. In fact, experts say that India's diplomatic stand on the war has opened some space for China to begin a process of dialogue. Remember, a meeting between the RIC grouping is yet to be scheduled. This grouping consists of Russia, India and China. And in the backdrop of the war, needless to say, all eyes will of course be on this grouping. There's also been a flurry of visits to India by several Western leaders, including the EU Special Envoy to Indo-Pacific, foreign ministers of Austria and Greece, and the US Under-Secretary of State for Political Affairs. India's role in geopolitics has been growing. It's been growing slowly, but it's also been growing very steadily. And conflicts like the Ukraine-Russia war are just a reminder to the world of the fact that it is diplomacy that triumphs. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.